Okay, I just have the board part of this weekend to go, and then I'm done. You still there, Taryn? You started another Fire Emblem 7 playthrough, didn't you?
Maybe.
Hello everybody, SlimKirby here, and welcome back to Mario Party 3 weekend. Yesterday we took a look at the best and worst minigames that Mario Party 3 had to offer, but we still have the boards to cover, so we're going to take a look at those next. Mario Party 3 is quite literally the very extension of Mario Party 2. It took a lot of the same implementations and items from the game, but in a sense put a bit of an overdrive mode to it. Items once again make their return, but instead of one, players can now hold up to 3 items at once. Board events become way more interactive with the inclusion of Action Time, an event where you must press the A button on the controller for something to happen. This usually comes in the form of avoiding a board obstacle that will send you away from your path, but it varies from board to board. The boards themselves do have some very unique themes that are utilized very well considering, maybe in a much better way than Mario Party 2 even. But does that mean they're necessarily better to play on? Let's find out. Number 6, Woody Woods. Okay, getting over the extremely suggestive and improper name of the board, first up we have Woody Woods, the forest board. When being reminded of this board, I consistently associate it with Luigi's Engine Room from Mario Party 1, because it shares a very similar mechanic. On certain intersections of the board, a sign will be pointing at which direction you must go whenever passing the intersection, and this sign will get switched every single turn or whenever you land in a happening space in front of the intersection itself. As a result, it's a mechanic you often have to keep your eye on if you want to succeed in going in whatever direction you are intending to go. While I do think it's better handled in this board compared to Luigi's Engine Room, mostly due to the item system, it's still not a mechanic I'm entirely thrilled with either. It's just one of those inconveniences that pop up every now and then that force you to alter your plan a bit. There is also a second set of happening spaces that get used whenever you land on one in front of Woody himself. When this happens, you choose a random direction which will give you either 5 coins or a second dice block you can use to go further. There is also a darker variation of Woody in the Dark Forest in the top left of the map. This evil variation, called Mean Woody, no joke on the name by the way, can pretty much do the opposite by taking 5 coins from you or making you go in reverse with another dice block. Overall, it's not necessarily a bad board, just very, very plain and average, and there isn't a whole lot to say about it either.
Hey Slim,
Yeah?
this board is named Woody Woods.
Woody Woods.
Number 5, Creepy Cavern. When it comes to both Creepy Cavern and Woody Woods, it was actually kind of hard to pick which one is better because to me, they are both on pretty equal wavelengths, at least as far as I'm concerned. Unlike Woody Woods, Creepy Cavern takes place in an underground cave where a minecart railing system is set up and where a giant womp blazes about in the middle of the board. The railways are pretty much this main gimmick of this board, but only really affect anything if you are on the tracks yourself. Unless you have a skeleton key, the only way you can access the other part of the board is by getting a ride or by being chased to the other side, and that is where this board's Action Time event comes into play as well. By landing on a happening space or by paying the thwomp at the station, you can essentially move yourself and or the minecart to the other side of the board, potentially screwing over your competition or taking you over to where you need to go. The result is usually determined by whatever scenario is going on in your particular playthrough. I do like the aspect of this board, which is why I do rank this board just a bit higher than Woody Woods, because you do have some control over certain board happenings, but aside from that, I've pretty much explained everything you really need to know about this board. Again, just a really plain and average and almost bland board to play on. It's not bad, it's just not great either. There's also a womp in the middle of the board where you can give him an item to move to the other side and stop blocking your path, but that's really about it. Just pay attention to where the minecart is on both tracks, always look at where you're going or where you need to go when going through intersections, and that's pretty much all you need to know here. Number 4, Chilly Waters. Here's the first of very few snow and ice boards in the Mario Party series, which is actually kind of surprising considering how often this theme is used in Mario games. As you might expect, Chilly Waters takes place on a frozen snowland filled with snowmen, slippery slopes, and a giant frozen pond in the middle of the area. On the top path, whenever landing on a happening space, a snowman will throw a giant snowball that will proceed to roll down the path and try to knock over any other players. This is where the board's Action Time comes into play, as you can essentially try and jump over the snowball with a well-placed jump, or get chased by it to an earlier or later part of the board. I have to admit, I do actually like the concept of action time when it is used in this fashion, as it does allow a world of opportunities in how you get across the board. But more than that, it's not 100% luck-based either. Of course, though, this almost gets in the area of the players having too much leniency, as it gets to the point where players start failing on purpose just to follow you in your backtrack to the star. But I suppose that is just another factor to keep in mind, not necessarily a negative. The other key aspect of this board is the frozen pond in the middle of the board. Sometimes you'll need to come given time, the ice will crack and you will be chased off into a different route entirely. Aside from those things, once again, not really a lot to say about this board either. I will say that it's the best snowboard in the Mario Party series, but considering its competition, well, we'll get to that in Mario Party 6. Number 3, Deep Bloober Sea. First of all, yes, it's Bloober, not Blooper. Check the game, it's Bloober. It's just the Japanese name of the enemy. Hudson Soft didn't translate into the official American name, but at least it's very, very close. So anyway, on to Deep Bloober Sea. Anyway, in forming this list, I've noticed quite a trend for the majority of the boards on this map. For one, they are all really, 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 really large and feature very few board events across the entire map. I think this is mainly due to the fact that there are a lot more types of spaces this time around, and with the inclusion of a 3-item system, they wanted to compensate for all the extra features by making the maps a little bigger. However, because of this, many of the boards underutilize their own specific features, which makes a lot of the sections feel very plain and almost boring. However, with that being said, Deep Bloober is probably the best of the boards that have this problem. In the middle of the board, a giant blooper nest separates the board into 2 halves, the top half and the bottom half. You choose which path to go via the intersection on the left side of the board. Taking a page from Peach's birthday cake, a shark interrupts you at this intersection and forces you to press a button before choosing your path. One of these buttons will launch a torpedo at you, forcing you to take the opposite path from the one you initially picked. Although this might seem annoying, for the person who is unfortunately getting stuck going a different path, the 2 paths are lined with a bunch of happening spaces, which will switch you to the other path anyway. In other words, if you want to stay on the path you're on, always bring a mushroom with you, which is probably something you should be doing on a lot of boards anyway. Finally, the action time event takes place on the upper left-hand side of the board. When you land on one of the happening spaces, a giant Kirby-like fish will start trying to vacuum you up and send you flying in a certain direction on the board. If you like that direction, let the fish have his snack time, but if you are comfortable where you are, start mashing that A button to make sure you don't move anywhere else. Overall, Deep Bloober just feels like another one of those underwhelming examples that we've all seen already on this list. However, it's good enough to be at least on the upper half of this list, so it's doing a few things right. But on the whole, there are 2 other boards that I like just a bit more. Number 2, Spiny Desert. Earlier we were in a frozen wonderland, but now we are in the exact opposite extreme as we visit a blazing hot desert in the form of Spiny Desert. The first thing you will notice immediately is the fact that there is not 1 star space, but 2 star spaces. That's right, screw the traditional rules, I'm gonna go the opposite way as everyone else to grab the other star and... Oh, wait a minute, we're in a desert and our minds are turning into mush. One of the star spaces is obviously a mirage, and sure enough, that's exactly what you are dealing with in this board. Every time a star gets a new location, another star space will appear as well, and one of them will not give you anything. Thankfully, you don't have to pay any coins for the mirage. That would be a complete dick move if you had to do that, but it does create a period of frustration for the player, especially if you decide to take a slightly different route just to find out that someone else or everyone else was going in the right way to begin with. Kind of a risk-reward type of situation, eh? However, you can completely bypass this mechanic altogether if you are an absolute coin and item hoarder, as a magic lamp will always take you to the correct star space no matter what. Good luck getting that lamp, though. Aside from that, though, there are also 2 quicksand areas where if you land on a happening space in either area, a giant quicksand will suck you in and teleport you to the other side. It's hard to say if this or the Mirage Star are more annoying. They both have their annoyances, but I'm almost tempted to say that the quicksand just because I hate not being able to make any sort of progress. The action time event of this board is jumping over a series of cacti in the center of the board. Jumping over the cacti will take you to wherever that path normally leads, but running face first into the cactus will send you flying to one of the designated spaces on the map, depending on which cactus you run into. Overall, despite the frustrations of some of the board events, I can't find myself really hating the board because of them either. Yeah, it's annoying when you run into a Mirage Star or get sent flying to the other side of the board, but generally every player will run into that problem at some point or another too, unless the luck is just horribly not on your side that day. I guess I can appreciate the fact that the board actually tried to have a gimmick that wasn't underutilized or locked into only one particular section of the board, which seemed to be a problem with the entire lineup up to this point. The entire board is based around the gimmick and is something you have to keep into consideration at all times, and I kinda like that. Number 1, Waluigi's Island. Although this wasn't his first game, that honor belongs to Mario Tennis on the N64, Waluigi's Party intro brought this nightmare into the world of Mario Party. Now, when I say nightmare, I'm not necessarily talking about the quality of the board. I'm talking about the living nature of the board. Explosives, traps, mechanical gadgets. This board is freaking chaos with a capital C. However, in terms of the environment and atmosphere, especially considering Waluigi's character, this board is absolutely perfect. There is a reason why Waluigi has the Mischief Star stamp in story mode because of this freaking board and everything it stands for. But oh where do we even begin here? The board starts out immediately with a roundabout of explosives where after the counter in the middle of the island reaches 0, you decrease it by landing on happening spaces, the entire circle will explode, forcing every player to lose all of their coins. In other words, get the hell out of there as soon as possible. However, it's not quite that easy because in order to get off the island, you need to play an action time event where a roulette will determine which direction you are going to move. You do have control over this action time event as the arrow will stop in whatever direction you press the A button on. But if you mistime this event in any way, you'll either miss out on the direction you want to go or even worse, go right back down to the island of explosions. Here is where the main part of the board actually starts, and for the most part, it's generally what you've seen on a lot of the other boards so far. There are different directions and different paths you can go towards, and at some point they all twist around back to the starting location and the Explodey Island. But there are still some other things to look out for. Sometimes the Millennium Star will appear on an island where every turn all of the spaces will turn into a random type of space. This could be good or bad, and you better hope that when you are over there, you don't have to deal with the Game Guy or Bowser spaces. There is also another junction at the top right of the board where if you want to see Boo, you have to get lucky and make sure you don't take the path that is booby-trapped. Otherwise, you are going straight back to start. Overall, despite how chaotic this board is and how nerve-wracking it can be, let's face it, this isn't a board where you just want to casually take a stroll. I think it's a perfect example of how much fun an intimidating board like this can be, especially when you get a few friends in on the action as well. I give Waluigi's Island major props for not only being a good board and perhaps one of the best finale boards of Mario Party, but also for taking a few risks with its board design and as a result, not being completely underwhelming unlike most of the other boards on this list.
Alright, that's it, I'm done. I can finally move on to the next game.
But wait, you forgot to give a proper ranking to all the dual boards.
Mr. Mover, Backtrack, Blowhard, Gate Guy, Arrowhead, Pipesqueak, in that order, worst to best.
Fine. Hey Slim,
Yeah?
one of the boards is named Blowhard.
Blowhard.
So as you can tell, as far as the boards are concerned, I just wasn't very impressed with what this game had to offer. Although I will say that none of the boards are necessarily bad, none of them, with any exception of Waluigi's Island, really feel that spectacular either. And I think that is my main problem with Mario Party 3. I would still rank it in the top half of Mario Party games, but I do feel like it is the weakest of the N64 titles without question. I know a lot of other people might disagree with me, but we are all entitled to our own opinion.
Well, there you go. What do you think of that explanation, Taryn?
I mean, I suppose one person preferring Mario Party 2 over 3 doesn't hurt anything. Mario Party 3 is and will always be the best Mario Party, and all scrubs who think otherwise will be wiped from this world eventually, but I can live with that.
And isn't that truly the best way to live?
Okay, well that's going to do it for Mario Party 3, which means we are done with the N64 era. Next up, we are going to move on to the GameCube era with Mario Party 4. As usual, if I can't make the deadline, please understand because the series does take a lot of work to get done, and I'll get to the videos as soon as I can. Special thanks to KingKienzan for being part of this video as well. Check out his Twitch channel in the video description below as he hosts some very fun streaming events whenever he gets the time.
Well, thanks for watching, everyone. I think I have a pizza to eat. Later, folks.
Hello, everybody. SlimKirby here. Oh, wait, that's not my line. Teehee.
Mr. Mover Blacktrack. No, that's not the name. That's not the name.
Let me tell you about a girl I know. She's a princess and a hoe. The obnoxious dream girl of Mario. Being around her only causes anger to grow. It's Princess Peach, she's Mario's leech. That's
Taryn, good job muting your mic there, buddy.